Hey, what's happening, y'all? It's me coming back at you again with another vid. Well, it's exactly 30 minutes until Saturday. So I'm over here in the West Coast. So just bear with me, guys. I'm about to go to sleep. But before I go to sleep, I have to do this video. This is a little bit long overdue. So now I think is the time to do it. Now, the title of this video, or I have to question myself, or I should question you guys, is does Dillian Whyte really want a title shot? Now, the reason why I ask myself this question is because I've seen and I've studied Dillian Whyte's. I study his strategic maneuvering into fights over the past couple of years. Okay, now it all goes back to his fight against Lucas Brown, which he knocked out Lucas Brown in a very, very, very spectacular fashion with the left hook. And of course, Lucas Brown came into that fight not in the best shape of, not in good shape, pretty overweight, slow as hell. But he was undefeated. It was a somewhat decent win for Dillian Whyte at the time. So somewhat of a showcase fight, and credit to Dillian for that win. And that was a elimination bout for the WBC. Great. And then his next fight he fought against is Robert Helenius, which, by the way, Dillian Whyte looked very, very horrible in that fight. Very terrible performance, but he got the win either way. So that made him. That actually, by the way, was the it was for the vacant WBC silver title at the time. So when Dillian Whyte grabbed that title, that silver title, that minor belt as you want to call it, he had became the #1 challenger. Now, from that standpoint, people were automatically jumping the gun and saying that, you know what, that makes him mandatory. Now that he's silver champion, he has the #1 ranking, then bam, he is mandatory. No, that's not the case. You know why? Because according to the rule book and by the bylaws and standards by the WBC, is that the silver champion is not, even if a ranked fighter in their sanctioned bodies grabs the silver title, they are not automatically mandated to become the mandatory challenger. They are required to fight in a final elimination bout that is ordered or voted by the competition committee or the board of governors of the WBC. So that's where the confusion comes into play, and that's where some of these nutcases who are advocating for Dillian Whyte don't seem to understand or have that simple logic of an understanding. So that's the case. But anyhow, as time goes by, Dillian has been pressing for the Deontay Wilder fight for the last 3 years, or 2.5 years, I should say. And I've always said this. I always believe that Dillian Whyte deserves a shot, no matter what the circumstances are. And I believe that his style is totally wrong for Deontay Wilder. When I mean totally wrong, I mean he is tailor-made for a guy like Deontay Wilder. Because Dillian Whyte, yes, he's progressed after the Anthony Joshua fight, a few years ago, but he's still slow on his feet. He doesn't have the quickest hands, and he doesn't have the quickest reflexes. And Wilder will time him very perfectly, in my view. But needless to say, though, Wilder has been avoiding that fight for a while. Let's keep it real. He has. Okay? But on the other hand, Wilder did say that, at the time when him and Joshua were in the midst of the negotiation process a couple of years ago, he said that he would fight Dillian Whyte under one prerequisite, and that is that if he beats him, he is guaranteed a shot at Anthony Joshua. And of course, Earn has vehemently denied Wilder that compromise, which I think that's a fair compromise in my view. And I got hammered for that, for agreeing with Deontay Wilder and his stance on that. And people act like that's totally unheard of. It's just unfucking believable. But it is what it is. All right. But anyhow, let's go back to the timeline here. Okay. He becomes the #1 challenger, but not mandatory, because according to the WBC bylaws and standard rules, anyone who's ranked in the top 4 by the WBC can become mandatory if it is voted by the board of governors in the WBC, which many people did not know, which is pretty strange though. But that is their rule. Okay, so what happened is that when Dillian Whyte had beat, well, here's the thing. he had was offered a let's see. Going back to this timeline thing, okay? Dillian Whyte, after Deontay Wilder beats Luis Ortiz, whatnot, Deontay Wilder comes out and says that, you know what? Here's the deal, Dillian. He told him straight up, if you want to fight with me, fight Luis Ortiz. If you beat him, I'll guarantee you a shot. Then, coincidentally, the WBC orders Luis Ortiz to face Dillian Whyte in a final title eliminator. And the winner of that fight becomes the second mandatory. All right, which really pissed off Whyte and Hearn, okay? So their whole argument is, one, they didn't want to face Luis Ortiz because he was coming off a loss against Deontay Wilder. Okay, fair enough. But that's who the WBC mandate you to fight, and you have to fight him if you wanted the mandatory shot. But their biggest gripe is that they weren't going to get a shot at the first mandatory because Don Brazil had got that shot. And to kind of eliminate the confusion there, Brazil got the shot because he was promised the elimination bout. If he had won it against Eric Molina, he becomes mandatory, not Eric Molina if he had won it. So kind of a bit of a gray area there. So he did win it, so he was guaranteed his shot first. And then if Whyte had beaten Ortiz, he would be the second mandatory, which means that if he would have to wait after Brazil gets his shot. Which, by the way, if Dillian Whyte have taken that fucking fight as he was mandated to do, he would be the next mandatory after Brazil, which he would have to wait another year since that Deontay Wilder has already fulfilled his mandatory obligation, by the way, okay? So as time goes by, he's still griping, he's still fucking complaining. Dillian Whyte, that is, all right? So instead of taking the Luis Ortiz elimination bout, what does he fucking do? What does he do? He fucking goes and fight Joseph Parker instead. Wow, a guy coming off a loss against Anthony Joshua, all right? I mean, that fight wasn't going to move you up in the rankings with the WBC, but it is what it is, right? Or actually, he is number one. But it really, I mean, it was a good win, yes, but, you know, Parker was coming off a loss. So, I mean, still, you know, I still give Dillian full credit for that, all right? But after that fight, all right, it seems like he's decided to give up on the WBC situation at that time, momentarily at that point. So the next step is that he was going to try to go after Anthony Joshua, right? So the IBF orders him to fight Kubrat Pulev afterwards, okay? So Hearn and Whyte were very confident that they're going to win the purse bid against Pulev, but out of nowhere, they got fucking outbidded. Out of nowhere. They lost the purse bid, and Pulev's backers actually were going to host a fight in Bulgaria. All right, with the 75-25 split in favor of Pulev, because Pulev was the highest ranked fighter in the IBF, and Dillian Whyte was right behind him, obviously. So what does this motherfucker Dillian Whyte do after that? What he did is that after he and Hearn lost that purse bid badly, he decides to call Pulev and and they were trying to negotiate with him and say, you know what, we don't want to fight in Bulgaria. And paraphrasing what they said to Pulev, we want to have the fight in the UK. What is it going to cost you to come over here and fight in the UK? Pulev flat out told them and laughed at them. So are you fucking kidding me? Are you kidding me? First of all, my team won the purse bid against you guys, so you're going to have to do things on my terms. So what does Dillian do? He fucking bulls out of the fucking purse bid. And you know, as a result of that, the IBF dropped his ass out of the rankings because he refused to go in the final attempt on the elimination bout against Pulev, all right? So, instead, this dude, right, you know, while he was trying to get get another fight in order after the Parker fight, he was called out by Dominic Brazil, okay? Dom Brazil said, look, Dillian, if you want the first mandatory shot, I'll put it on the line against you. Brazil wanted that fight. And Hearn and Whyte, what do? Instead of fighting Brazil for the first mandatory status, they fight Derek Chisora in a fucking rematch, which some people believe it was meaningless. I mean, honestly, I seen that, you know, it was a great first fight, and the second fight was okay, but still, though, before that, the community was divided in that situation whether Dillian Whyte should fight Derek Chisora in a rematch. But needless to say, though, he had an opportunity at the first elimination bout if he had pursued the Brazil fight, but he didn't. He fights Chisora in a fucking rematch. After he beats Chisora, who, by the way, was beating Dillian Whyte before he knocked him out, okay? He had actually had an opportunity to get a 3-belt title shot against Anthony Joshua at the time, who was the unified champion. All right. And during the negotiation process, Dillian was complaining, okay? Yes, he had his reasons about the drug testing situation and the rematch clause. I get all that. But the fact is that he had an opportunity at a title shot right there without going through an eliminator, fighting the final title eliminator, and he turns it down. He turns it down, okay? Turn it down. Wow. He turns it down. Just like he turned down the Luis Ortiz second mandatory fight, second mandatory final eliminator against the WC, and just like he turned down the IBF title eliminator against Kubrat Pulev, just like how he passed up the opportunity to fight down in Brazil for the first elimination bout, mandatory status, I should say, for the final eliminator. So I don't know. It's like at this point, I'm thinking to myself, should I feel a little sympathy for Dillian or not? Because at the same time, I understand that he feels getting shafted by the WBC, but he's out here complaining, trying to shame the WBC. I mean, trust me, the WBC is not innocent. I know that. They're a fucking crooked organization, even though they have done some good things by implementing the clean boxing program in alliance with VADA. Shout out to the WBC for that, all right? Because without them implementing that program, we would be catching all these goddamn dirty-ass fighters. Now, we got to give them credit for that, all right? Now, the fact is that this dude has been shaming the WBC, Mauricio Suleiman along with Eddie Hearn. They've been running this campaign, and Suleiman's not having it, all right? First of all, he's out there saying that you guys are the reason why my family is getting threatened. My father, or my uncle, I think, Jose Suleiman is being shamed. His name is being tarnished because of you guys. Suleiman flat out told him, look, if you guys could continue this negative campaign against me, then I'm going to let everyone know the whole truth about what's going on between us and how we were trying to come up with a resolution and your fighter, Eddie, by the way, okay? So, anyhow, Dillian is very lucky that the WBC didn't fucking take his ass out of the rankings when he turned down the elimination bout against. As I was saying, he turned down elimination bouts left and right, just like with Luis Ortiz, Kubrat Pulev, had an opportunity to fight down in Brazil for the first mandatory status. It just goes on and on and on, and had a direct shot at the title against Anthony Joshua for 3 belts at the time, and he turns it down. So again, I have to ask myself this question. Does he really want the title shot? Dillian Whyte, that is. Does he really want a title shot? I don't know. I'm very perplexed about the situation, to be honest with you. I really am. Okay? Again, at this point, I know at first I really wanted to give this guy some bit of sympathy because obviously he has tried to oblige with the WBC with their demands. Of course, some things have turned out not exactly as planned. For example, both when Don Brazil was ordered to fight Dillian Whyte, and I think that was for the interim title along with the first mandatory status, and then Wilder and Fury were ordered to fight in their rematch, and Fury pulled out, so the WC had to cancel the Whyte and Brazil fight and move Brazil into the fight against Deontay Wilder. Okay, that's not Dillian's fault, I get that, and he was ordered to fight Tyson Fury. He was going to go along with it, and Tyson Fury backs out of the elimination bout. So I get all that. But the point is that at the same time, he has passed up many opportunities. And if he didn't pass up these opportunities, he probably wouldn't be in this situation right now. Now he's pissed off that the WBO, who, by the way, had him #1 ranked for a very long time, but not as long as the WBC has, because everybody's running on this 600 days campaign crap, okay? First of all, Dillian Whyte is not the only fighter who's been ranked #1 for such a long fucking stretches of time and never got a title shot. All right, look at Kubrat Pulev, for example, with the IBF. Look how long they fucking had his ass rated #1 and had him go through fucking elimination bouts after elimination bouts before he finally got a shot at Klitschko. I didn't see nobody fucking raise concerns back then about that. All right? I mean, I know there were some people who did, but not many people did. Why? Because the heavyweight division was so fucking dry back then. Nobody didn't really give a fuck. But it is what it is. But needless to say, though, all right? He's bitching about the WBO because the WBO decided to go ahead and give Alexander Usyk, a guy who didn't fight, who never fought at heavyweight yet, who's moving up from cruiserweight, to become the mandatory challenger to the winner of the Joshua Ruiz rematch fight, okay? And he's pissed off about their decision. Why? Because he put it in the petition or something in writing that he should supersede Alexander Usyk, from my understanding. But Dillian, come on. If you read the rule book, just like you didn't read the WBC rule book, is that the WBO have a policy or bylaw, which is written within their rules, that any fighter that becomes who's a super champion, who was a super champion in one of their weight classes, decides to move up, will automatically be mandated to fight for that title in that other weight class. It's always been that rule. Chris Algieri got his shot against Manny Pacquiao after he moved up from 140 to 147 to fight Pacquiao. He got an immediate shot, all right? Terrence Crawford moved up from 140 and became the mandatory challenger immediately when he moved up and fought Jeff Horn. All right, so it's always been that rule. It has existed for many years. Okay, all right. So now him and his promoter Eddie Hearn is now running this fucking desperate campaign. In my view, is a fucking desperation campaign to fucking call out, to try to, pressure the WBC to mandate him to fight Deontay Wilder. Now, I'm scratching my head on this one because, first of all, why you guys acting all so desperate now to get that WBC title shot? You know why they're acting so desperate? Because Eddie Hearn and all these damn fanboys out there are Matchroom, by the way. They all have pretty much given up on Anthony Joshua because they don't believe that he's the guy who can hold the torch for them when it comes to the heavyweights in the UK with the UK scene. All right. They know that Joshua got exposed. He may not be the same fighter. Even if he comes through in that Anthony Ruiz rematch, he's not going to be the same fighter. They know that. And they believe that. Now they've been holding on to this belief that Dillian Whyte could be their savior. That's what I believe, and that's the reason why they're fucking running this campaign right now, okay? And by the way, this is the same fucking mistake that Joshua did, and that's what cost his ass that fucking fight and the beating that he took from Andy Ruiz. You know what they're doing too? They're overlooking Oscar Rivas. Hello? Do you realize you guys got a fight coming up with Dillian against Oscar Rivas? Because that's a dangerous fighter, by the way. You're not even trying to kind of focus on him for the most part. You're focused on the WBC and Wilder in the WBO situation. Bruh, fight your fight. Get through your fight, and then worry about the sanctioned bodies and whether and decide they make you mandatory or not. All right, because if you continue to run this campaign against the sanctioned bodies while you're not focused on Oscar Rivas, you're gonna get knocked the fuck out. All right, and there's a high probability that he could get knocked out and stopped by Oscar Rivas because Oscar Rivas is very quick. He's got a little bit faster feet. He's got quicker hands than Dillian Whyte. So Dillian better be careful. All right, so. Again, I'm going to close out this video. I just want to give you guys I just wanted to share my thoughts about this. I really don't think, to me, part of me says that I don't think Dillian Whyte really wanted a title shot back then. I don't know what, that's just my view. But now, I'm just leaving it up to you guys to decide whether you agree with my assessment or not. Because, and then again, some part of me believe he might want it now, given the fact that Hearn is now is now investing more time into him now. So now that Joshua went down in flames, so again, it seems like Hearn is trying to look for another cash cow and try to build another cash cow in Dillian Whyte, which he could potentially do. So this is what this is all about, in my view. Desperation by Eddie Hearn and Dillian Whyte. Desperation. Even if if the WBC did oblige and give him the mandatory status, he still has to wait another fucking year before he gets a shot at Wilder. These dumbasses out there thinking that he's going to get an immediate shot. No, it doesn't work like that. Again, Wilder already fulfilled his mandatory obligation against Brazil last month. He has another year until he fulfills it again. Dummies. All right. I'm out, guys. Peace. Oh, by the way, I've also heard that some people are saying that Dillian Whyte's more deserving as a title shot than Jamal Charlo. Now, that may be the case, probably. But if anybody's really trying to equate that situation, I don't know why. Because first of all, I don't recall Jamal Charlo been turning down final elimination bouts or direct title shots, while at the same time, Jamal Charlo has been sitting there patiently waiting for the sanctioned bodies like the WBC to mandate him and get him the fights with the likes of Gennady Golovkin and Canelo Alvarez. All right, so totally different scenarios right there. All right. Oh my God, just some people, man. Some people goes all lengths of trying to move the goalposts in situations like this. But anyways, I'm out for real. Peace.